Hey, good afternoon, everybody. From where I sit, I'm your host, Dr. C. Yes, we are on another broadcast. We've been off for a few weeks. We've got a lot going on, especially with Dr. C. So he's going to give you some updates about what's happening in his life, some very exciting things. But we felt like we've been away too long, so we wanted to get back on here and share you some perspective from where I sit. And without any further ado, we're going to go ahead and get straight to it. All right, so today's news. uh, yeah, before I even get into today's news, I think it's really important to understand that there is a lot. And when I say a lot, there is a plethora of things happening with this Trump administration or regime or dictatorship, whatever you want to call it. And quite frankly, there is so much happening that it's actually very difficult to keep track. Okay, so I did my best with my research to come up with the best points to talk about on today's broadcast. And so here's the best that I could come up with. Of course, there is a lot more. And even before we get into the topics for today, I want to make sure that I emphasize this. You, our listener and viewer of this podcast, have to inform yourself beyond what we are telling you from this broadcast. It is absolutely necessary that you inform yourself so that you can put yourself in a position to react to what is actually happening. And because we have been off a couple of weeks, and like I said, there's a lot of very exciting things going on as far as Dr. C is concerned. But make no mistake about it, even we have been keeping track about everything that's happening. Okay. So if you are not certain about what's happening, I really find it hard to believe that people are just putting their heads in the sand and pretending like everything is normal because nothing is, right? These are the things that have happened over the past just few days, okay? Just over the past few days. And we'll get into each one of them directly, okay? So, yes, the Trump criminals is pushing resegregation. There is no doubt about that. There are plenty of news stories saying that they are actually trying to do that. The Department of Defense is trying to push out black soldiers over razor bumps. Yep, that's from military.com, baby. Yeah, they are actually trying to do that, and they're starting with the Marines. MAGA in Minnesota. Yeah, I'm laughing because this is ridiculous. And of all places, right? All places, Minnesota, right? MAGA in Minnesota is trying to get Trump derangement syndrome recognized as a mental illness for progressives. Yes, they are actually trying to do that. Chuck Schumer, who happens to be the Democratic minority leader in the Senate, and other Democrats are capitulating to MAGA. They are basically, look, our Democratic politicians in DC, not all of them, but a good portion of them are flat out giving up. They are absolutely giving up to the onslaught of neo white ethno state and just saying, hey, count me in to your program. Basically, that is what they're doing. Yes, the Tennessee legislature is trying to rename the Nashville airport after Trump. Yes, go figure, but yeah, that's happening. MAGA going after Medicare and Social Security to destroy for good. Now, I've been saying this for weeks now that they are actually going to try and do this year. Republicans, and they shouldn't even be called Republicans anymore because they are all MAGA now. MAGA has the momentum and the tools to make that happen. And last but certainly not least, and like I said, I just tried to pick the best that I could cover. Trump is removing Black and everyone else that is not white from the rolls at Arlington Cemetery. Yes, you heard that correctly. They are actually doing this and have done it and are absolutely going out of their way to make sure that people of color and women do not get recognized for excellence in this country. Like I said, it is a neo-white ethno state. Donald Trump and Elon Musk are America's Hitlers. I'm not lying to you. They are America's Hitlers. This, what they are doing right now, looks just like the early days of in Germany when Hitler came to power. And so, coming to this resegregation, just wanted to make sure I shared with you a picture from what that looked like down here in the South. Now, I'm going to level with you. I am, and I'm being honest with you, I am not that concerned about resegregation. Here's the reason why. When Black people were forcibly segregated from white folks down here in the South, our wealth that we had was more concentrated in our Black communities. There are certain parts of the segregated South on the Black people side where we really did look out for each other. And I've showed you time and time again where we've been able to build these ultra wealthy communities for ourselves, which of course eventually were all destroyed by the white terrorists of this country. Make no mistake about it, these white supremacists are what I call white terrorists. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, J.D. Vance, all of these Republican senators in the House and in the Senate, and all of these legislatures across the country that are trying to push this agenda are nothing more than white supremacist terrorists. Because if they get their way, they're going to implement all of these policies, and then they're going to try and to enforce them. And what I mean by that, they're going to try and enforce these policies with violence, which makes them white terrorists. Make no mistake about it, that is exactly what they are going to do. I don't know if you've been paying attention, but there was a story that came out of a Black township in Ohio near Cincinnati, where these neo-Nazis have been trying to protest directly in their neighborhood. Talk about trying to instigate a problem with Black people. They were going out of their way to try and trigger Black people to act. Well, guess what? Black folks did act. They came up with their own armed militia to protect their community. And ever since they've done that, those neo-Nazis have not been back. And I implore Black folks all over this country and those who support Black people in your community, okay? you may end up having to do the exact same thing, because I'll be doggone that the city of Atlanta, where has some of the most wealthiest Black communities in the country, live here in the Atlanta metro where I live. And I'll be doggone if roaming white mobs are going to come to my neighborhood and burn down the houses we live in because they don't like the idea that we have more than them. I think it's going to be necessary that we have armed militias to protect all of our communities. Eventually, that's probably going to have to happen. Okay. Once again, like I said, I'm not that. Uh, I am not that concerned about resegregation, and here's the other reason why: is because these white businesses, where we sometimes go and patronize and spend our money with, they need our dollars. Make no mistake about it. They need our Black dollars to survive. And so if they want to cut us off from patronizing Olive Garden or any other place like that, fine. I have no problem with that. We could take those dollars and put them back in our community, and where we make our communities wealthy instead. And I'm going to tell you something else. Corporate America depends on not white folks, excuse me, on Black folks spending their hard earned money at their places of business. They depend on it. This is the dumbest thing I have ever seen in my whole entire life. But guess what? I say, bring it on. I don't know if they know, but Target is struggling big time because Black folks will not shop there. And yeah, my family, we used to shop at Target all the time. We love Target, better known as Target, but not anymore. And Target is suffering. And if we do that to all of these other establishments, guess what? They will suffer too. And in the meantime, putting our dollars back into our communities will grow and thrive. I'm all for it. In fact, all for it. Yes. Making the military white again. I chose this photograph because I think it's fitting. This is not that long ago, probably right during World War II or right after World War II, where the Klan was supporting all of these white sailors, etc. They didn't want Black people serving in the military then, and they don't want us serving there now. Now, the question that you ought to be asking yourself is why? Well, there are a lot of reasons why they don't want Black people to serve in the military, because one, a military trained Black young man is a threat and is a danger to the United States of America under this criminal Trump regime. Two, we gain skills and knowledge from the military that in most cases, in a lot of cases, we can't get anywhere else, because they don't want to send us to school unless they're putting us so much in debt that we never get out of it. The military, by the way, and yes, I'm a veteran myself, a proud United States veteran from the United States Coast Guard. One of the toughest services to get in. You got to be smart to get into the Coast Guard. And yeah, I got in. And I'm proud of my service. And Black men and women, young Black men and women that are serving this country are doing so with distinction. This is the other reason why they don't want Black people serving, because they know we serve with distinction. They just don't want to recognize us. So they want to make the United States military all white men. I doubt very much that these young white men have what it takes to protect this country without the diversity that has made our military the greatest in the world. They cut out all these young men and women that are people of colors and are different religions and ethnicities and everything. They are doing nothing more than destroying their own military might by doing so. And of course, you don't have to take it from me. You can just look at the history. Just look at the history. People of color and women have served the United States armed forces with distinction throughout its history. And now they want to take all of that away because one man whose ego is so fragile and that he is so bigoted and so racist and so stupid that the people who are allowing him to do this do not see it unless they agree. And more often than not, they do. They agree with him. It's going to be to their own detriment that they do this. Now, some of these stories that that I am pointing out to you right now, these are some absolutely bonkers stories. Yes, lawmakers, MAGA Republicans from the state of Minnesota, ultra liberal, the state of Minnesota, are trying to get Trump derangement syndrome defined as an actual mental illness. And I hate to say it, y'all, but the ones who are trying to do this are the ones who are mentally ill. And then all you have to do is look at this man and see how mentally ill he actually is. This is the most hated man on the planet right now. The most hated man in America right now. His poll numbers are slipping. They are going down. Even his own supporters are beginning to wake up. This is the most hated man on the planet. And they got the nerve to try and define us as being mentally ill because we hate him so much. And why do we hate him so much? Because he's evil. This man is evil. He is probably, in fact, the Antichrist. I don't have any evidence of that, but hey, let's go with it. He is. That's how evil he is. And I hate to tell all of you this, he ain't never gonna change. Never, ever gonna change. Okay? He's not. And the people around him, they're in a cult. I don't know how else to put it, but they are in a cult. The people who are trying to do all of this stuff for him are in the cult. The Speaker of the House is in the same cult. Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House from Louisiana, he's in the same cult. They are all in the same cult. And I remember a cult, the Jim Jones cult down in Guyana in South America, where he convinced all of his followers to drink the Kool-Aid. That's where the term comes from in the 1970s. And they all committed mass suicide. I wouldn't be surprised if this man told these people to kill themselves for him. They would actually do it. That's how crazy I think these people are. They would actually do it. Trump derangement syndrome? No, it's not us. the people who oppose this evil, it's the people who support him that are actually deranged. Yes, the Democrats. So Chuck Schumer basically capitulated to MAGA. And of course, everybody who calls themselves a Democrat is super angry with this man, as they should be. I listened to his his reasoning for voting for the continuing resolution, but he's not the only one that did it. There were a lot of Democrats in the Senate that voted for this crap. Okay, here's what I'm going to say about the Democratic Party, i.e., the Democratic politicians. Okay, Democrats, voters, if you voted Democratic in the past, become an independent and stop giving these clowns money until they start doing what we want. Do you think that Chuck Schumer actually talked to his constituents before he made this decision? I bet you he didn't. They're not listening to their voters. So therefore, stop supporting them. Support only the ones that are going to do what the voters want. We, the voters, want our Democratic leaders to stand up to this lawless regime. And they're not doing it. We need to get rid of this old leadership. Look how old this clown is. Look how old this sucker. He looks like he's about to die and kill over right now. We need to get rid of these people. We need to kick them out of leadership and put some young bloods in there who are willing to fight. People like AOC and Jasmine Crockett. Those two young women are ready to fight. And I will follow them anywhere they want to go if they're going to fight for us, if they're going to fight for the democracy in this country. These clowns are not fighting. And if I were to pick somebody to replace Chuck Schumer as the minority leader, my vote goes to Barry Sanders. Yes, that's right. I said it. Barry Sanders. Barry Sanders is old as dirt, but boy, that dude, that dog's got some fight in him. He's got some fight in him, and he is popular. He is extremely popular going around the country in his anti-oligarchy tour. People are showing up in droves. Both Democrats, Republicans, and independents are all coming out. They don't want what's happening. And the Democrats have just basically given up. I am officially going to call myself an independent from now on. I am not going back to being a Democrat until these suckers get their act together. And yes, they're giving up. We need to give up on them. If they're giving up against Trump, then we need to give up on them and demand new leadership. And if you can't get the leadership from those who are in Washington, well, we need to get leadership from somewhere else. Young people need to fight. I am 66 years old. I'm going to be 67 in a couple of months. I still got fight in me, but this is really a young person's fight. Young people need to be fighting, and there are some young people in Congress that are willing to fight. Let them fight. And yes, the state of Tennessee. Oh boy. You know, if you can hear the despair in my voice, well, it's because there is despair there. I just, I just can't. I mean, I believe what's happening, but you don't believe what's happening. That's kind of where I'm at right now. Maybe you're there with me. But yeah, the state of Tennessee wants to rename the Nashville airport to after Donald Trump. The guy who is proposing this bill doesn't even live in Nashville. He doesn't even live in Nashville. I mean, come on. How crazy are y'all? By the way, the state of Tennessee also voted to take their own power away to vote against Donald Trump. And if anybody votes against Donald Trump in any of their legislature activities, that you could go get arrested and go to jail. Yes, the state of crazy ass Tennessee did that. I have family that lives in Tennessee. I pray for you guys all the time. Um, watch y'all's back in Tennessee. All right. My daughter and her family lives in Nashville, and the rest of my family, my ex-wife and my other two daughters from my first marriage, they all live in Memphis. Uh, you guys watch y'all's back. I love all of you too much to let anything happen to y'all. Okay, so watch y'all's back. Tennessee is going crazy. So here's something that I get into a lot of arguments over again and again, and it's about Medicare and Social Security, and that the MAGA is that is their number one goal. Yes, they fired a lot of people from the federal roles who take care of us, the American people. Yes, they've taken funding away from a lot of various departments like the FAA and Medicaid, which they're trying to get rid of Medicaid right now. The USAID and all this kind of stuff. But what they really want to do, what they really want to do is get rid of Medicare and Social Security. And the main reason why they want to do that is because that's where the majority of our hard earned taxpayer dollars go to. Now, there is something else that you need to understand. They want to cut these two programs because that would put them over the top to pay for Donald Trump's $4 trillion tax cut for the very wealthy and extremely powerful corporations in this country. That is the main reason why they want to go after Medicare and Social Security. And this fact, which I have up here on the screen, Trump, throughout all the time that he's been president in his first term and right now, has introduced a budget to try and cut Social Security and Medicare every single year he was in office as president of the United States. Those of you who support this man and believe everything he says, he is lying to you when he is saying he's going to protect Medicare and Social Security. He is lying to you when he says he's not going to tax Social Security and Medicare. And the only reason why that would be true is if he actually got rid of those two programs. They are also lying to you when they keep saying that Medicare and Social Security are going to go bankrupt. That is a lie. Medicare and Social Security is funded by the taxpayer. Let me say that again. Medicare and Social Security is funded by the taxpayer. There is no way that these programs could go bankrupt, or as Elon Musk calls it, a Ponzi scheme, because it's not that. Every working America gets Medicare and Social Security taxes taken out of their check. And that money goes into providing benefits for those who have also done that and are at retirement age, like myself. Okay. This is not a Ponzi scheme. It, by the way, Medicare and Social Security are probably the two best run programs there are. Make no mistake about it. I get it. Our government could be a lot more efficient. Trust me, I know that. You know, I was in the military for 12 years. I know it could be a lot more efficient. But make no mistake about it, Medicare and Social Security is their two best run programs. But not anymore since Elon Musk has fired all these people that work in these departments. And might I add that there is a bill that was introduced in the House to make sure that Social Security and Medicare remained solvent well into the future, long after I have passed away from this earth, by increasing the limits of taxes taken out at I think it's $176,000 or something like that. Over $176,000, you don't have to pay any Social Security or Medicare taxes. That's right. If you any money that you make over 176,000, you don't have to pay Social Security and Medicare taxes. That is every very rich and very wealthy American in this country who do not even pay into it. And yet they're trying to get rid of it. So guess what? They can have themselves their $4 trillion tax cut. We have got to get rid of these people. Trump, Musk, Vance, Marjorie Taylor Greene, Mike Johnson, every MAGA senator and congressperson absolutely needs to be removed from office. And we need to remake this democracy so that only those who care about the democracy are elected. By the way, just in case you don't understand or know, every last one of these people, particularly those who have gotten elected, right, in 2025, took an oath to the Constitution to protect and follow the Constitution. And none of them are doing any such thing. None of them, especially Donald Trump. I am willing to go out on a limb and say this, that this man is going to try and get rid of the Constitution. It is the one thing that is basically holding him back and slowing him down. And I'm going to tell you right now, in order to get his way, to become the king he wants to become or the dictator that he wants to be, guess what? If he gets rid of that Constitution, then, and nobody stands up to him, then that is exactly what is going to happen. In fact, I think it's already too late. I think we are already living in a dictatorship. Nobody is standing up to him. The only people who are standing up to him are these judges, and they don't really have any power other than to tell him, you're breaking the law and you need to stop. And he's not stopping. The Justice Department's not going to hold him accountable. He's got nothing but his own goons there, right? The Supreme Court really can't do anything about it. And by the way, this is their fault. They've made him totally and completely immune to any kind of prosecution as long as he holds this office. They did this. They're the ones that blew this with that ruling in the summer. The only people who can stop this lawless freight train from proceeding down the tracks are the American people themselves. And right now, I do not see it happening. I don't see it happening at all. Black folks ain't protesting. We've been burned too many times and stabbed in the back too many times by white folks. And yes, we got stabbed in the back. All of these white people who said that they were going to vote for Kamala Harris did not vote for her. They basically said, fuck you, black people. We're not voting with y'all. We're not going to do what you say. We're going to stab you in the back. And that's exactly what they did. And so, therefore, black people just don't see it necessary for us to get out there and protest with y'all. This is your problem. This is your bed. You made it. Now it is time for you to sleep in it. Good and well-meaning white people in this country are going to have to get this country out of this mess. Those people who have supported Trump and are changing their minds have to work overtime to convince others that they need to get rid of these people. Otherwise, we're going to have a dictatorship for the foreseeable future and well into the future if nothing is done. And make no mistake about it, black people have been singled out and prosecuted and persecuted again and again throughout the ages, ever since the 1600s. Guess what? We're used to it. And we have survived and will survive this too. But this is not the way to live. Okay? It really is not. White folks who believe in democracy are going to have to handle this on their own. And if you are able to do so, then we will jump in and help you to make this a more perfect union. But I'm sorry, you just can't count on us right now. We feel betrayed, and we're not going to help anybody who's betrayed us again and again. I'm sorry, it's not happening. All right, I think this is probably my last point. I know there's so much bad news, everybody, but I got to give it to you. I got to give it to you. Right. Yes, my wife told me about this story, and I didn't believe her at first until I went to go and find out this information on my own. And yes, this is actually happening. Removing evidence of Black excellence. Of course, I'm focusing on Black folks because that's my community, right? But the Arlington National Cemetery website has removed content on Black, Hispanic, and female veterans who have died serving their country from the Arlington Cemetery website by order of Trump. I want to ask a question. What exactly are they afraid of? I already know the answer to that question. What exactly are they afraid of? That's the question that you, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, that you ought to be asking yourself. If you are a white person tuning into this broadcast, you need to be asking yourself that same question. What in the world are you afraid of? Black people ain't your enemy. We never have been. We have never been your enemy. We never looked at you as being the enemy until you started to persecute and enslave us. What are you afraid of? Like I said, I know the answer to that question. They are afraid of not living up to their own expectations and then watching everybody else live up to their expectations, because Black people are excellent, y'all. We are excellent in math, science, the arts, literature. I'm telling you, there ain't nothing that Black people can't do. You give us a fighting chance to make our mark on this world, we are going to make it. And there's so much evidence that that is true. The social construct of white supremacy is the reason why they are afraid of Black excellence, because their social construct of white supremacy is based on a lie. And when the lie gets exposed, they have less power. That is the reason why I believe that white supremacy is a disease. It is a disease that only God and a psychiatrist can fix. I'm just being honest. It's a disease, y'all. Y'all got a problem. If you are a white supremacist, a self avowed white supremacist, you suffer from that disease. And if you are a God fearing man or woman and you are a white supremacist, I don't have to tell you where you are going to end up if you are God fearing. I think it's time you start changing your ways if you want to go to heaven. Because if you don't, you're not going to heaven. You're going the other way. Oh, boy. So, final question for all of you, right? Are you outraged enough yet? I asked the question because I've noticed something that's been happening across the globe. Um, Remember, I said that Donald Trump is the most hated man in America, but he's not just the most hated man in America. He is the most hated man across this globe. Everyone despises this guy. And everybody also hates the people who support him, i.e., these other dictators, right? He keeps talking about Viktor Orban and how great he is. Viktor Orban's about to get overthrown in his own country. There are protests abound all over Eastern Europe, getting rid and trying to get rid of these dictators in these countries. And make no mistake about it, I think Vladimir Putin's on his way out too. The Russian people just don't have it just yet. But if these protests and they start ousting these dictators, his day is coming too. And so I ask, are you outraged enough yet? And I'm going to be honest with you, I don't see enough of it happening. And I can tell you right now, I can see which way the wind is blowing. This dictatorship has not gone off the track yet. It's still on it, and it is moving fast. Frankly, the American people just aren't feeling enough pain yet. And even if they do feel that pain, do think about it this way. White folks in this country, what do they value more? Their white privilege or their freedom? That's a very good question. Perhaps our white viewers and listeners needs to ask the question, right? What do you value more, your white privilege or your freedom? What is more important to you? I know the answer to the question, but you need to ask that question yourself. If your white privilege is more important to you than your freedom, then you are going to do nothing. And there are a lot of you out there basically doing nothing. because your white privilege is more important to you. This is the reason why people just simply are not outraged enough yet. While I was out on the road, I was listening to a story about the people in West Virginia. We had some really bad flooding in West Virginia, and FEMA's not helping out. Trump doesn't care. And they were interviewing these people, and they were still supporting Donald Trump, even though he has turned his back on these people. I would say to argue, right, that they value their white supremacy or their white privilege more than their freedom. That's a tough question to ask. Maybe y'all should be asking that question of yourselves. Anyway, are you outraged enough yet? Right now, I do not see enough of that. So that's our presentation for this afternoon. Thank you for joining us from where I sit. I also wanted to give you some updates. The reason why I was not on for the past couple of weeks is because Dr. C is in the process of publishing 3 books. One book is about to come out. I'll tell you about it next week. One book will be hitting the shelves and hitting the electronic shelves, and you should be able to get this book on tape as well on Audible. Next week, I'll give you a little bit more on the title and where you can find it. And please definitely go on out there and get it. It is a book of poetry, erotic poetry. That's right, Dr. Steve. Dr. C's got it like that. But please be sure to go pick it out. I'll give you a little bit more information once it hit the shelves. And then my second book, which I am very excited about, is a children's book. I'll give you guys a little bit more information about that a little bit later. But that will probably be coming out next month. And then my third book, which is another book of poetry. It's some erotic poetry and some other stuff that's really important. If you like poetry, you'll love that book as well. So that's what I've been working on, and God bless that I've been able to come out with these 3 books. Um, it's truly a blessing to be able to do this, and I would love for you to get out there and purchase these 3 books once they hit the shelves. I'll give you a little bit more information as the weeks progress. Anyway, thank you for joining us, and you guys have yourself a wonderful afternoon, and we'll see you probably next week. Also, don't forget, we also do this show on Podbean. We'll share the audio of this recording on Podbean, and you guys can listen to the show there as well. You guys have yourself a wonderful afternoon.